Okay guys, hi, this is Lashette from Scholar Moon Creations and I'm back with a new video. This is my mid-August wrap-up where I talk about the first half of the books I read in the month of August. And specifically, particularly the first half of the books I read for the Magical Readathon Aurelium Autumn Equinox semester. Oh, yes, I participated in the readathon, the Magical Readathon, which various other versions I've been participating in throughout the year. I did vlogs, two really, because my reading in August was not great. I didn't really read anything until the 4th, so I have my Magical Readathon from August 4th to September 4th, because that's how I do. Like, I don't know, I can't work within the bounds of the calendrical lines for whatever reasons. My plan with these are lunar because I have that same issue there. But anyway, disclaimers as usual for warm weather. Here I live on a big street, the first floor. When it's warm, I have the window opened and or the fan on, and because I need to breathe. And there will be ambient noises. I'll try to edit out as much as possible, but that's your warning. So the Magical Readathon is a readathon run by G at Book Rose. Link to the announcement video below. It's over, but there will be other ones. I haven't picked out what my character looks like or their name, but my guild is the Order of the Crescent. The continent my character is from is Carador. They are an Iltyrian race and their weapon is a trident. Being completely honest here, I didn't have the energy to really put into the character and all of that stuff. At some point in the future, maybe I'll tell you about guild points, because I know I've gotten quite a few, but it is what it is. I know I at least have 150 just from participating in the recent readathons, but I also have done other things, and I just, yeah. Maybe for the next readathon in the Magical Readathon thing, I will have myself better prepared, but I don't. So let's just discuss the books I read now. Since the readathon ran the entire month of August, after a lot of struggle, I decided to pick The Calling of Necromancer. Just for me, as a person, that worked. I had various books for book clubs that I knew I needed to read, other stuff that I had out and I wanted to get to, and I thought that was easier, and things just came together so well, and I figured 8 books was doable, and it would have been. 1, if I had started from September 1st, and 2, if I didn't struggle through a tome. But all that aside, let's talk about the first book I finished in the month of August. Was V for Vendetta by Alan Moore, artwork by David Lloyd, Steve Whitaker, and Siobhan Dodds. This is a kind of dystopian graphic novel. I did not love the artwork, but it fit the story. This is what I would call at this point old-fashioned type of comic art style that I didn't love back then. I'm never a fan of art styles that have a lot of black in them. This kind of has that block print type, the block stamps. I don't like that, or at least I don't like that when so much black is used and so much shadow. But it did lend itself very well to the atmosphere of the story. There is a movie about this. I still haven't watched it. But this is a very well-known classic graphic novel. The issues of the individual comics before this bind-up existed all came out, I guess, 82, I think. And so this has all 10 comics issues all together. Basically, we're in this futuristic London where fascism has basically taken over England and probably other parts of the world. This is the outcome of the Cold War between the United States and Russia. Things like assassinations and war and nuclear things happen. People who are out for themselves taking over the government and promising people some kind of security, safety, and organization, and that comes with oversight, abusive government. There's all kinds of corruption and things like that. We kind of go back in time also to an extent where there are concentration camps. There are no people of color in here. There are no people who are not cishet, are not the gender they were assigned at birth, that kind of thing. Because of those concentration camps, they were taken away before the start of this story, and majority of them killed. So, like, there are some flashbacks where they're talked about, so you see them a little bit, but not really. So no blacks, Hispanics, Asians, none. And in this futuristic England, I keep doing that because this is set in the 90s. This is set in the late 90s. So this being written in the early 80s, being set in the late 90s, is futuristic then. Now, not so much. But there is a character called V that wears this Guy Fawkes mask and starts killing people, and people who are high profile enough in the government or tangentially related to the ruling government that people start to take notice. He also does these like really grand things like blowing up popular sites and things like that. Just no one is sure exactly what his purpose is, least of all his sort of protege, woman he saves and kind of keeps close by to keep her safe towards the beginning. I didn't know where this was going. This is very text heavy for a comic or graphic novel. They definitely had a story to tell. And you don't know whether V is after revenge or to change society, to help people, or to get back at the government, or what. And I think it leaves that kind of unsolved towards the end, because that's not the main point of the book. So it makes it okay. Alright. I already said I didn't like the art style. V as a character, we mostly see through other people's perspectives, and so that leaves them enigmatic throughout the whole thing. The first part is more focused on their seemingly trying to get revenge at a certain group of people involved in one of the concentration camps. But the second and third parts are not, and it's just like, B is willing to do whatever to anyone to get their goal accomplished. And I guess they did. It was very interesting, but also kind of predictable. Again, like for its time, this is probably pretty much more interesting and fascinating and like, oh, maybe more avant-garde, but now it's just like, yep, especially me living in the United States with everything going on as a black person. It's just not, it's like, okay, yeah, the writing was too much. I think like the writing to comic ratio was too much. For this format, for graphic formats, we're supposed to be relying more on the images, and the images give you the atmosphere and figure out, but the text is what tells the story, and I didn't appreciate that. Like, that's not what I feel personally graphic works are supposed to do. But it is what it is. The plot was decent, but it wasn't great, and the writing for V himself, I was just like, it was riddles upon riddles upon riddles. I don't know if I'm gonna like this movie when I watch it. I do want to watch it, but I'm happy to have finally gotten this. I feel like the story is logical, but I didn't love it. So, like, keeping it real. I read this for the Realm of Comics book club. This and another were the picks for August. And this I gave 3.5 stars. I also read this for the Magical Readathon. And this was for an O in restoration. Object restoration, a single object as the focus of the cover, the mask. Okay, so the next book I finished in the month of August was Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. And I had this since February, and I was like, I need to finish this book. I finally got the audiobook, and I listened to it, even though it put me in an emotional spin. No lie. This is by Jane Allen. The narration was by Marcella Cox. A little less than 10 hours. We're following a woman who is just a black woman in the United States. She's living in California. She's 33 years old, so a couple of years younger than me, and she works as a reporter for a news station, and this is lit fic, basically, and I'm not a fan. Because generally we're following a person or people who are just living their regular lives, and I generally don't find that very interesting to read. This was the literature pick, book club group pick for Blackathon, and like I said, I had this sitting around since February, and I keep telling myself to read it. The thing is, I was scared of it because the title, Black Girls Was Die Exhausted, I understand that fully, and I think this book did an amazing job living up to its title. I just didn't want to be exhausted in my real life and feel the exhaustion of what is it, Tabby? I don't remember what her nickname is, or Tab 2. I just like everything that a woman deals with plus everything that a black person deals with all together is exhausting. And then her personality, there are times where I was just furious with her. Because the things that the way she thought is not the way I think, and that type of belief and thought process frustrates me to no end, because it feels like you're setting yourself up for failure when you look at life as these are goals that I have to accomplish to be a successful person, but these are not goals that I feel that I want to do. This is just what I gotta do. And like this juxtaposed with parts where I'm just like, I don't care. Like, this is boring. And then the parts that I am interested in, like, it's just this waffling of emotions that ultimately makes me not enjoy reading. And because this is following a black woman in her 30s, I'm a black woman in my 30s living in a big city too, written by a black woman, voiced, narrated by a black woman, like it's more impactful. And I do need to say this is very well written. Like I said, I knew from the title, I was like, oh, am I gonna be exhausted reading this? And I was. I was tired of Tabitha's life very early on. I'm like, I don't need this. But like, I think that speaks to how well done this is. One of the themes is friendship, and pretty early on, I was questioning. I'm like, are you guys friends? Because what kind of friends are these? Why y'all talking shit about each other behind each other's backs? Like, questioning your friends' choices is one thing, but like this, quite often it sounds like she would be talking about or even thinking about one friend in particular never in a positive light. Like, when they were together, they seemed okay, but again, it seemed like keeping up with the Joneses type of thing. Not that they were in competition with each other to an extent, but in her head, somewhat. And the same with the other friend in a different way. And again, I get it to an extent, but the negative thought process regarding these two other women, I was like, what kind of friendship is this? And then the end happened, and I was okay, you're a better friend now. You guys are a better friend. And they talked, because I'm just like, it sounds like y'all have gone decades without having a real conversation with each other, like real talk. And that's like, what, these are your best friends? I don't know. But anyway, the first chapter really kicked my ass. Like, everything was in there. We had, you know, the fear of police brutality. What kicks off this story is that Tabitha gets a diagnosis from a doctor about her abilities to have children. She has a very low egg reserve, and so being in her 30s, already close to that high risk age range, they're recommending that she either get pregnant right now or freeze her eggs. And freezing your eggs is ridiculously expensive. She's not in a serious committed relationship, though she says she is. She's known this dude for a year, and they only see each other on the weekends. But somehow she thought they were on the road to marriage and kids. That whole thing with dude did not understand. That is something that is just, I will never understand this. Like, this is not something that I can relate to at all. When I know of other women who do things like this, I can just shake my head and keep my mouth closed, because unless they ask, because I'm like, enjoy your life, but that's a thing that I personally, I hope I never get to that point. I don't feel like he did anything hugely wrong, but we don't have his perspective really. I don't want to go into piece by piece because I did vlog, so check out the vlog. I wound up giving this, what is it, 3.5 stars? Yes, I gave it 3.5 stars. The characterization, the atmosphere, and all of that was great. I did not love the characters. Barely liked anyone, but it is what it is. The writing was good. The plot, I don't even know. That's the other thing. What was the plot? What's the purpose? This is why I don't read fic, because I'm always just like, where are we going? What are we trying to solve here? Nothing. Okay, that's valid, but also, then why am I reading this? Because I'm just frustrated the whole time, because I know there's not like a quick fix. There's not like, oh, if they do this, that, and the other, it might take years, but they will succeed type of thing, because that's not the type of fiction this is. So yeah, and then this didn't fulfill any promise. So it was just me being mad at the world being the way it is. The next book, which also frustrated me, but in a different way, that I finished in the month of August, was Shadow in the Ember by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is book 1 in the offshoot series, Flesh and Fire. This is an offshoot series from her Blood and Ash series, which I was reading either earlier this year or last year. I cannot remember for the life of me, but I think that I needed to read this before I went to the next Blood and Ash book for the War of Two Queens, and I wasn't sure. I forgot what this offshoot was going to be. The book came in from the library and I was like, all right, let me read it because it took forever to get here. And it'll fit prompts. It was a chunky one though. I didn't realize it was gonna be 712 pages, but that helped my guild, Order of the Crescent. So let's talk about this book. This is a fantasy romance, same as the other books in the related series. I'm just gonna read the thing. Born shrouded in the veil of the primals, a maiden as the fates promised, Seraphina Muriel's future has never been hers. Chosen before birth to uphold the desperate deal of her ancestor struck to save his people, Sarah must leave behind her life and offer herself to the primal of death as his consort. However, Sarah's real destiny is the most closely guarded secret in all of Lysania. She's not the well-protected maiden, but an assassin with one mission, one target. Make the primal of death fall in love, become his weakness, and then end him. If she fails, she dooms her kingdom to a slow demise at the hands of the rot. And yeah, there's another paragraph, but I'm not going to go into it. Basically, that's the story. But what happens is things don't go as planned her whole entire life when she's of age and gets offered to the primal. And then she's kind of wandering around because she don't know what to do with herself anymore. And she meets this god. And they start having some UST, some sexual tension. And I think that's one thing that Jennifer L. Armentrout writes very well, but the problem here is that the first 200 pages were boring. There was a lot of Sarah rambling around. There's some setup. There's a lot of people I feel like we just randomly meet and they're kind of important. Sarah's in this weird position in the royal family, but not in the royal family. And I'm just like it makes sense, but y'all are stupid. And she's just going around doing all these things. It picks up about 250 pages in, and the story really gets going. I started really enjoying it from then. It was like, okay. And then I started really like, oh, this is good. But at that point is also when it really started to mimic the first Blood and Ash book. And I was just like, but why? Because it had been a while since I read that. I forgot. There's a lot of overlap, and I think that might be on purpose. Like, Jennifer L. Armentrout is trying to show us where certain things that are happening in the future in the Blood and Ash series came from in this Flesh and Fire, because like I said, it's like a prequel. But anyway, I think some of the world building is too complicated for no reason, or for not good enough reason, and yeah, just chunks of this could have not been here. I do like the characters. I am interested in continuing, though. I gave this a 3.5 stars, and this fulfilled the Magical Readathon prompt for an O in animal studies. Study of familiars. Read a book with a familiar or animal characters, and there are dragons. I picked this for a different reason, but the dragons showed up and not the other things that I thought. But it worked because I was ready to DNF because this damn thing was so long, and the first 250 pages I was reading for 3 weeks, and then the last couple of pages in a few days. So the next book I want to talk about is Watchmen. I forgot I had a physical copy. This is another book by Alan Moore, another graphic novel, and another well-known popular graphic novel. The artist in this one is David Gibbons and John Higgins. This is a compilation of all of the printed comic editions. The art style is a little bit more modern than V for Vendetta. There's a whole lot less black, which makes it for a more upbeat read, and obviously the yellow cover. What I didn't realize was that between each chapter are these like text heavy stories, whether they be articles or journal entries, and there are, I think, 12 chapters, and wow. So this was written in the late 80s rather than the early 80s, I think. The first originals are, the late 80s. But there's a similar feel to V for Vendetta, so I get why this was the other pick for the month of August. This yellow is making me look dark as hell. I understand why this was the other pick in August for the Realm of Comics book club, because there's another type of going against the government, the society going to hell based kind of way. Not necessarily fascism. We're on the brink of possible war. There's still the whole Cold War stuff happening. And we're not sure what's going on. This is a little more futuristic. It's set over a longer period of time, and there's less action. It's more introspective. We get a lot of flashbacks. But the story is, we have a bunch of masked vigilantes, and they start popping up in the 50s and 60s, and they kind of die down, not necessarily literally die, but some of them do, in the 60s and 70s, and now it's the 80s, 90s, and they've come back, but they're more superhero-ish than just regular people. And there's a story within the story. In the present timeline, Rorschach is trying to figure out who is killing masked superheroes, because old ones who may have retired and also new ones, either they're being killed or somehow being pushed away or misdirected. And Rorschach is trying to figure this out, but he's kind of not quite mentally sound, and he's definitely got many mental health issues. I think like The Boys, that TV show on Hulu? I think it's on Hulu, or maybe it's Amazon Prime, that superheroes are not always perfect. They don't always know what they're doing. Their lives are not always good. So, and their choices are not always helpful. And there is talk about sexual assault in this. There is also an attempt in V for Vendetta, but she gets saved. FYI. There is a science experiment gone wrong. The ending of this is also kind of ambiguous, but also very understandable. I don't know if I did a good job, but a lot of people know what this is. We see a lot of the background through flashbacks of the various superheroes and masked vigilantes in both generations. And there's a lot of talk about what's going on in the background. One weird thing that was creeping me out the whole time, there's another story within a story. One, like, character we never even get the name of, he's sitting next to a newsstand the whole time reading a comic book series, and one of these in-between chapter stories basically tells the story, and it's a story about a man whose ship is attacked by pirates, and he's the only one that survives on this island until he realizes the pirates are going to go to the homeland that he came from, and he wants to save his family and his people. So he does a lot of crazy things to get there, and then finds out that he's basically become like the pirates and he can't go back to being a normal person. He's changed too much, so he goes out to join the pirates, who never attacked the town. But anyway, like, that story was weird and gruesome. It's just a really interesting look into the psyches of superheroes, I guess. And I read this before. I've seen the movie. I read this a long time ago, so rereading it, I did not remember the ending. I was like, damn, now I know. I remember the ending. I hope this never happens. I can say that. Like, those choices, I hope they don't ever need to be made. Obviously, we've passed that time frame. I enjoyed this more than V for Vendetta, so I wound up giving it, oh, where's my thing? A 4 stars. And this fulfilled the prompt for Q in spells and incantations, and that was Incantation Echo, pick from someone else's TBR. I know that since this is on the Realm of Comic Books book club for the month, that several other people were reading it, including both of our hosts, Bree and Ashley, and the other people in the book club that are cool peoples. Do join us for the next one because they're not as thick. That is the last book I'm going to talk about in this video. I will wrap up the rest of the prompts and the rest of the books I read in the month of August in the next video. Let me know if you participated in the Magical Readathon. How did you do? Did you get all of the prompts that you needed to? And what is your calling? And lastly, if you've read any of these books, let me know what your thoughts are, especially if you're in our Realm of Comic Books book club. These were chunky ones this time, both roughly around 400 pages, so I definitely put in the work for the Order of the Crescent. Okay, all right. Going to end this video here, guys. Leave me a happy face emoji down in the comments below if you want to support but don't know what to say, and if you made it this far in the video, that would help me with the algorithm, as would liking this video and sharing it so more people can see it and follow me if they would like to. Subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you know when my next video comes out. Definitely my August wrap up with my stats and the last of the books I read in the month of August. Links to the announcement videos and my vlogs and the Realm of Comic Books book club video in the description down below if they're not here or here for the cards, as well as a 10% off discount code to my Etsy shop where I make bath and body products for mundane and magical purpose if those interest you. Guys, as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.